Generally, with a wheeling machine, you want to stay with almost the flattest wheel you possibly can to do your shape. You're going to get a lot of crown out of a fairly flat wheel. But with a power hammer, it's pretty much the same type of process, except with steel. You know, with steel, you want to run a higher crown. You don't want to run a crown that's like this, because you'll end up seeing all those little marks in it. You'll never get them out of there. But you want to have one that's going to raise that sheet metal as well as smooth it out. That's about right. When you start this out, you want to start it out a little bit slow, otherwise you'll start ripping the thing back and forth. Now, you see this little hump that's going on right here? Okay, so you're going to want to raise that. Now bring that up so that it flows out into the fender, because once you stretch this thing out, you're going to see a little hump there if you don't, and there's just no way to get back to it. Also, there's stages and steps to every one of these processes. You wouldn't want to go in and start adding your ducktail stretch to this before you've pretty much finished up everything you want to do with the shrinking and the plenishing and the height of it. You want to get all that in first, and then the final detail is to bring the thing out to where it has that little ducktail area to it. Now, you know, for such a high crown wheel, head in there, you can feel this, and it's not nearly as bumpy as you see little marks. Usually by the time I'm done shaping something, all the tools are on the floor. So now I'm at the point where I can take this thing over to the table. Like this, it's not going to fly. It's just not what it's supposed to do. But you use your body, your hands, to manipulate it. You can start to see how it flows into the shape that you want. Then you start to fit it up to the butt to see where you're at. Oh, need some more shrink up here. You know, so you'll bring it back, flatten this thing back out. Go back at it and start doing more shrinking right in this edge. Not a lot, but just a little, and that'll tuck the end of it around. Once you get to that point, everything's lovely right now. This point. Now what I'll want to do is we haven't used a linear guide yet. Let's put it in and show how it goes. The linear die, I'm going to take this and stretch this metal out. Splay it out like this. By running it in and out, we start to do that reverse cut like this. You want to make sure, before you do that you already have this to the point where it's smooth enough, and it's got the shape, and it's punished so that you don't have to go back on it. Generally, if I was doing a piece like this, I'd probably do it in two pieces and seam it up the center, but it's together, and the gas and TIG welded together, and you just hammer that weld on it to go all the way up. I can, familiar with like a Ferrari GTO, anybody? You know what that is? Okay, I can make that whole fender up to the center line of the fender in one piece. So where it comes around, it goes down to the sill. Then you have your wheel opener, and you have your edge that comes around for your headlight and your turn signal. You cut out for your headlight, you seam it right down the center, and make that in one piece. And then the opposite side the same way, that flowing piece that arcs this way and goes down like this. Then you just have one weld seam in the center, in your bucket, and then you put your nose section on.
For those that aren't familiar, when you said that you wanted to do all of the shrinking and smoothing first, the reason is once you do the stretching here, you're creating a reverse. And once you've got a reverse in the panel, you can't fold it back like you had it before because the reverse locks it up. So that's why he's saying to do that.
See, I was going to leave that key part out. Oh, good thing you said that. No, he's absolutely correct. That's why you want to finish up with what you're doing before you start doing your reverse. Also, if you want to do any kind of plenishing on it, you know, it gets to be a lot more tedious, and frankly, it just makes it really, really time-consuming to do it. I can take this thing out a whole lot more than what we have here. And I think plenty of people have seen fenders come down and roll back out. Well, You know, sometimes a person will cut it and they'll make that ducktail. If you have a machine like that, and you have a linear die that works the way that one does, you can start stretching that whole piece right out. And you just keep on doing it until the thing is out where you want it. And you also have your arc in it this way yet. So that's a really, really cool thing about the power hammer. Wheeling guys would probably cut it and weld that piece in. You know, otherwise they stretch this with the wheel. It's a little bit harder to control. Again, you're doing it in a linear fashion at that point, as opposed to a radial fashion with this. It's a smaller dimple, smaller hit point.
Something that Desnaraki's got in his book for doing that type of linear stretching. He's actually got a gear that he runs as his lower wheel in the English wheel, so that every one of the teeth are stretching it linear across this area here. And he'll run that back and forth a few times and stretch that out and then wheel it smooth again. And it'll stretch this out similar to what they're going to do on the power hammer.
And you could take a hammer like a hatchet, you know, that's not sharp but blunted off, and you can peen the thing along like that same way. If you don't have a power hammer, you start stretching it right out. And all you're doing is just pushing the metal away. Everybody see what's starting to go on? I'm kind of cheating because when I come up to here, I'm actually using this the way I would a high-crowned bottom anvil, and I'm just raising the metal here, not really stretching it like I'm using the stretching tool for. That's so that I can keep the shape as I come back. I have to stretch this up.